Right, so welcome back as we continue with this history from 4. So this time around, we'll be looking at this topic, another topic focusing on development of autocratic government in Germany. Development of autocratic government in Germany. You know, we have been talking of Germany for quite long, but this time around, we'll be looking at the governance, the issue of governance. Last time we were looking at government, when we were looking at Germany, we were looking at the economic problems after the First World War. But this time around, we'll be looking at governance, the issue of governance now. So focusing on autocratic government, that is dictatorship, development of dictatorship in Germany. So this is another wonderful part that we are going to look at. So let's start by looking at the Weimar Republic. Now, the Weimar Republic, on this one, we'll look at a number of issues on how it started and how it developed. Now, in 1918, the Allies refused to sign the armistice, unless Germany had to adopt democratic forms of government. So we are talking about during the war here, when the World War was towards the end, Germany was about to surrender, but the Allies, they said, no, we are not going to allow the surrender of Germany with the autocracy in place, that is the Kaiser's government in place. So the Western government, the Western countries, they wanted Germany to change its form of government to democracy. But the Kaiser himself, he refused. So the Kaiser refused to approve that condition. Then what happened was that the army mutinied, that is German army. So it stopped obeying the Kaiser, that is to mutiny, to just stop obeying the orders of their leader, that is to mutiny. So it meant that the Kaiser lost control of the army. Then what happened, what followed was that he abdicated on November 9th and fled to Holland. So to abdicate is to relinquish, to leave the throne. As the Kaiser, he left the throne on 9th November 2018. Why? Because he lost the control of the army. It's dangerous, very dangerous when the leader lost the control of the army. In that case, things are out of hand. They get out of hand. So he went to Holland, he fled to Holland. So when he went there, then Friedrich Ebert of the Social Democratic Party, he became the German leader. So after the Kaiser relinquished or abdicated the throne on 9th November, when he fled to Holland, then Friedrich Ebert became the leader of Germany. So this Friedrich Ebert, we have said that he was the leader of the Social Democratic Party. So you have to be following very attentively there so that we get together up to the end. So in January 1919, elections to the National Assembly were held to draw up the constitution. So after that election, there was no clear winner. And what happened was that the same Social Democratic Party, that one, it formed a coalition government with the other parties. So we are saying when the elections were called in 1919 January, then there was no clear winner on that election. So what happened was that still the Social Democratic Party, led by Friedrich Ebert, then they formed a coalition government. So, you know, the capital city of Germany is Berlin. So, still, we are talking of the period of the war when the war has just ended. Then, in Berlin, the capital there was instability. There was quite a instability in the capital. So the National Assembly of this coalition government, the National Assembly or the Parliament, met at a remote town of Weimar in February. So we can see there that they are transferring the Parliament. For example, our Parliament is in Lilongwe. Then transferring the parliament or meeting of the parliament because of instability, maybe there are demonstrations there, then transferring the assembly to say, all right, we are going to meet in Chitipa, or no, we are going to meet in Mwanza, like that. So reason was that there was instability in Berlin, therefore they met at Weimar. So Weimar, we have to know that it was a small town, a remote town in Germany. So there, the assembly met, and by August, the constitution was drawn up. So they drew up the constitution of the new Germany because they are no longer under the Tsar. It's now a democratic government. So they drew up a constitution when they met at Weimar. So that's why there you can see it is called Weimar Republic or Weimar government. So let's go on. So what happened was that the president, according to this constitution, he was to be the head of state. The head of state, according to the new constitution of Germany, was to be the president, not the Kaiser, as the title, no. And he was to be elected to be in office there for 7 years. He was to have one term of 7 years. So Friedrich Ebert, he became the first president of the Weimar Republic, So he became the first president of that Weimar Republic, that is Friedrich Ebert. So the president also appointed a head of government by the name Chancellor. And this chancellor was taken from the majority party. The majority party there, they were to produce the chancellor. Even today in Germany, they also follow the same system of government. They have the chancellor as the head of government, but they have the president who is there for 7 years, like that. But the chancellor becomes the head of government. So the National Assembly consisted of the upper house, that is the parliament itself. It was divided into two. The upper house, like we can call here the cabinet, the office of president and cabinet. And the other one is the lower house, like the parliament itself, where we have the members of parliament. So they called it the Reichsrat, like the Senate. That was the upper one. And the lower house was the Reichstag, like the parliament. So members of the parliament, that is of the lower house, were elected for a term of 4 years. 4 years. So you should see the difference there. While the president of the republic was elected for the term of 7 years. The members of parliament for the term of 4 years. So you have to see there how they designed their constitution. So we are seeing here the Germans designing their constitution after the fall of the Kaiser. Now, let's look at the socio-economic problems in Germany after the First World War. So this part is another interesting part because it is going to have a link to what we already know. We have looked at the economic problems in Germany after the war, or economic condition after the war. We looked at it. So here it will be just like a repetition. But here we are going to look at it in a systematic or orderly form. So let's look at what happened on the socio-economic problems in Germany after the First World War. So the Weimar Republic was faced with a number of problems. The Weimar Republic, now you know what we mean by Weimar Republic, because the government of Germany now, it was following the constitution that was drawn after they met at Weimar, a town of Weimar, to draw a constitution, a democratic constitution. So later on, it was called the Weimar Republic. So it was faced with a lot of socio-economic problems, and that one, it gave rise to the Nazi extremists. So take note of this word Nazi here. It's a new word, but it is going to stay. Mind you, we are looking at this topic, the rise of autocratic government, the rise of dictatorship in Germany. So we are starting from where Germany picked it. After the fall of the Tsar, there was democracy. Now later on, there was autocracy or dictatorship. How did it rise? So we are saying that the problems of the Weimar Republic gave rise to the Nazi extremists. So there were a number of problems. There were a lot of problems. So let's branch or bunch these problems according to their main categories. So the first category of the problems were constitutional problems. So Germany faced constitutional problems. What were they? So let's be attentive here. So there was proportional representation of the Reichstag, created serious problems. So the Reichstag, we are talking of the Reichstag and the Reichstag here. Remember, we are talking of the assembly, the parliament. So there was a proportional representation. So what happened was that the seats, they were distributed according to the percentage of votes a party gained. So, for example, we talk of here in Malawi, in the current situation, we have the parties that are there. For example, we have MCP, we have UTM, we have DPP, and other parties. So what the point we are trying to drive here is that in Germany, their system of democracy was that the seats in the parliament, they were according to the percentage. After the votes, when you vote, the percentage that you get, those ones, you were supposed to have the seats in the assembly. So what do we mean by that? For example, if DPP got 38% of the total votes, 38% went to DPP, and 35% went to MCP, 20% went to UTM. It means that in the parliament, UTM will have 20% of the MPs, and MCP will have 35% of the members of parliament, and DPP will have 38% of the members of the parliament. So that's what is meant here by proportional representation in the parliament. So this one, it created a situation where no one political party had a clear mandate to rule. Just as I have illustrated here, imagine DPP has 38%, it's not the majority. And the UTM has 20%, it's not the majority. MCP has 35%, it's not the majority. So it was a problem in Germany by that time, simply because no one political party had that clear mandate to rule, because they all failed. They were lacking the majority. So the system, it produced weak coalition of government. So there they understand it properly. What happened then, it was like that representation now is in the parliament. Then you find that if DPP is the ruling party, then you find that in the parliament, MCP and the UTM they make a coalition. And what does that mean? If UTM had 20%, we have said, and the MCP had 35, together they make 55. Should they drive an impeachment there for the president, what will happen? That will pass. So it made, that's what we are saying here, it made a weak coalition government there in the parliament. So some parties in the coalition could choose not to support government, and this led to the fall of the government so often. So just what I've said here, these coalitions, these coming together of parties, coming together because they just hate maybe the leader and not necessarily to solve the things that are on the ground, then it made the governments in Germany to fall so often. So just look at this. Between 1919 and 1933, the country, Germany, had 21 different governments. See, they changed government 21 times because of what? Such a system of weak coalition, such a system of proportional representation. Then that one, it was a problem to Germany. So that's why we are saying that Germany or the Weimar Republic faced the constitutional problem. Another problem of the Weimar Republic was lack of experience with democracy. So democracy, which came after the fall of the Tsar, was strange to the masses because they were used ever since to the strong dictatorship of the Tsar. So people were just used to the dictatorship of the Tsar, and democracy itself, it was a strange thing. So people admired the leadership of the army, see? So they took the army as right leaders and not someone just accommodating the views of anyone. No. So people were, they had no experience in with a democracy. So the Germans, they hated the republic because it was associated with defeat. Remember, it was the republic, this Weimar Republic, the government of Ebert. It was this that signed the Versailles Treaty in 1919. So the signing of the Versailles Treaty, it made the Republican politicians to be unpopular in Germany because they were associated with defeat, to say you accept that Germany was defeated. No, Germany cannot be defeated. So people hated Germany to sign the Versailles Treaty. Remember the Versailles Treaty, we said that the terms were very harsh, paying 6,600 million pounds as reparations. So that one, it was really, really pathetic. It was really hard for Germany. So people thought this Weimar Republic brought problems on Germany. So some politicians who signed the Versailles Treaty were even assassinated. The Germans assassinated their own leaders for signing such treaties. So we can see there people were not happy with the Weimar Republic. Another problem faced by the Weimar Republic was the communist threat. The communist threat. So the communists, remember, we have just looked at that topic, communist revolution in Russia. So those communists, they wanted to take Germany or to make Germany a communist state just like Russia. So from 1919 to 1923, the Weimar Republic faced a series of communist revolts. What were these? The first one was this one, the Spartacus Revolt of 1919. So what happened was that in 1919, the Spartacus League, there was a league by this name Spartacus. So it staged a revolt in Berlin. So why? These people, they wanted to seize power from the democracy or the democratic or the Weimar Republic and set up a communist state in Germany. So it was led by Karl Liebknecht and Louis Luxemburg. So these were the leaders of the Spartacus revolt in 1919. So the revolt, however, it failed after the Freikorps, This one, it was a private army of ex-soldiers. So the Freikorps, they crushed the revolts and they failed to materialize. So the leaders of the Spartacus revolt, they were all murdered. So that one, it was a threat again. So we are saying that it faced a problem of communist revolts. Number one, the Spartacus communist revolt, which wanted to take over government, although it failed. But still more, it was a problem. Another communist revolt was the Bavarian Rising. It also took place in 1919. So the communists, again, they set up the communist government in 1919, in February. That is in Bavaria. So in May, the Freikorps, they supported Ebert and they also crushed this rising. So the Bavarian Rising again, they failed to materialize or to take over Germany and impose communism in Germany. And there was also the Ruhr revolts. Ruhr revolts. Remember this region of Ruhr? You cannot remember, you cannot manage to remember, to forget this one, Ruhr region. We said it was the economic region of Germany. So in 1920, the communist revolts occurred in Ruhr. The situation, it was only saved by the army, the police, and the Freikorps. So you can see there, the Freikorps, the ex-soldiers, they did a lot to save the Weimar Republic, but they were a series, we're talking of a series of revolts. And another one, it was the Kapp Putsch, 1920. So in 1920 again, it was led by Dr. Kapp Wolfgang. So this one, it was in Berlin. They marched on Berlin with 5,000 Freikorps to seize power. So Dr. Kapp, he managed to convince 5,000 of the Freikorps. Remember, we also talked of the Freikorps that assisted the government of Ebert to be stable because they crushed the revolts. But this time around, we see another group of the Freikorps convinced by Dr. Kapp, they wanted to seize power. So what happened was that the army refused to defend the government against the Freikorps. See? These ex-soldiers, then the army of the government, now they refused to fight against the ex-soldiers. So there it was really dangerous. However, workers in Berlin, they went on strike, and a few days later, Dr. Wolfgang, he fled the country. So workers there, they were the ones who saved the Weimar Republic from the takeover by the Freikorps there. So we see another revolt there. So those were the revolts. We have seen the revolts by the communist revolts that were faced by the Weimar Republic. So another problem of the Weimar Republic, apart from communist revolts, apart from inexperience in democracy, there was also economic problems. Economic problems also were faced by the Weimar Republic. So Germany came out of the First World War economically ruined, bankrupt. It was crumbled. It was down economically. So the reparations, remember the reparations? They further crippled the economy of Germany. So Germany, remember during the Versailles Treaty, one of the economic terms of the Versailles Treaty was to pay 6,600 million pounds. So this was a lot of money, So that one, it further crippled the economy of Germany. So the only way to raise the money was through international trade. See, so Germany could only raise this money for reparations and to run its economy, it was through international trade. But what happened? Most countries in Europe, they raised their tariffs. We also looked at this one. Remember, we said that countries, they raised their tariffs. Why did they do that? To protect their struggling industries. Industries were struggling after the war in Europe. So all countries in Europe, they raised their tariffs. So when tariffs are high, it means international trade there will fail. It will fail because they will pay a lot to buy goods outside. So this led to Germany's slow economic growth in the early 1920s. So what happened was that there was slow production and companies closed, and there were widespread of unemployment. So these encompass the economic problems that the Weimar Republic faced in Germany. Now, by 1922, Germany was close to bankruptcy. When we say bankruptcy, it means you can no longer run your affairs economically. When we say someone is bankrupt, it means someone has failed to manage his economy, be it at home. Someone can become bankrupt at home. At home, then you can fail to run, to buy food at home, whatever. Then in that condition, you are bankrupt, you are broke, you don't have anything, so bankrupt. So by 1922, Germany was close to failure to manage her economy, that is close to bankruptcy. So in January 1923, France and Belgium occupied the German industry of Ruhr to get their reparations. We talked about this point, remember, sometime when we were talking about the same issue of economic conditions in Germany. We said in 1923, Belgium and France, they occupied the economic region of Germany after Germany failed to pay the reparation. Why did she fail? She was close to bankruptcy. So then the government ordered workers in Ruhr to go on passive strike. So the government ordered workers in Ruhr to go on passive strike, to say, we also talked about it, to say people were striking there. They did not want to go on work and produce some the things or that will make the profits for Belgium and France. So they went on passive strike. Then production became slow and goods became scarce in shops. So what happens when goods become scarce in shops? Prices go high. So the prices also started to go up rapidly. Then the government printed the worthless paper. We also talked about it. They were printing that Deutschmark, and they were printing more money so that people have more money to buy few things. So the end result was that there was hyperinflation. Hyperinflation, the buying power of money became very low. So that is hyperinflation. So this one, it was so rapid and uncontrolled rise in the prices of goods, because the government, the more they were printing the worthless money so that people, they have that paper money, the more that money was useless to buy things, and the more things were rising on the marketplace. So that was another economic problem faced by the Weimar Republic. Right, so let's look at the rise of Adolf Hitler, the rise of Adolf Hitler in Germany. Now, on this part, we are going to look at how Adolf Hitler, the well-known figure in history, came to power. So when we talk of Adolf Hitler, he was born on 20th April 1889. So he was born at Brunau in Austria. You know, Austria is just the neighboring country with Germany. So he was born in Austria at a place called Brunau. So Brunau is just at the border with Germany. So his father was called Alois, and this father of him died in 1908. And Adolf Hitler, he attended a secondary school at Linz and Steyr, but himself, he had poor grades. He had poor grades at school, so his record was not so appetizing. And he left school in 1905 and he became an artist after he saw that things were not working for him as a scholar. Then he left school because he had poor grades. So he tried to do architecture. But he was refused for lack of school leaving certificate. You know, this issue of certificate, when people say, go to school, get educated, the major thing is for you to have a certificate. If you have a certificate, at least you have the enrollment in different fields. So we see here Adolf Hitler was denied. He was denied entry into architecture. Architecture is the art of designing maybe buildings, bridges, or any construction thing. So Adolf Hitler was denied simply because he had no any school certificate. And he spent 4 years selling postcards and paintings uh, and doing labor work. So you can see there, he was denied entry into architectural school, and because he did not have any certificate, then he ventured into just drawing his things and selling those postcards for himself, the paintings. And those paintings were not all good, were not good paintings. You know, someone who has not gone to school is not a professional. He was just painting the things just to earn a living. And he was doing the manual work or the labor work. You know, in Germany, sometimes there are snows there. So during the snow period, they employ people to remove snow in the road, so that the cars should be passing well. So it was the work that once Adolf Hitler also did. He did the manual work. And he was also living a lonely and unsociable life. He was just alone. Most of the times he was alone without friends. So he was living a lonely and unsociable life. Okay, so this one is Adolf Hitler in this picture, Adolf Hitler, the German leader. And the picture in the middle here, this one is the swastika. Swastika. When Adolf Hitler uh, entered that party, the German Workers' Party. Later on, when he became the leader, we are going to look at it. When he became the leader, he changed everything. He changed the name to Nazi. He changed even the signs. So he adopted this sign of the swastika. The swastika symbolizing German never surrender. And in the other picture here, we see Adolf Hitler with Benito Mussolini. Benito Mussolini was from Italy and Adolf Hitler. So they were good friends. You know, Benito Mussolini was also the dictator in Italy. So they were friends. So in this picture, also you see Benito Mussolini raising that salute. It was the salute that was introduced by Adolf Hitler, to raise your hand forward. So that was by the Nazi salute. So Adolf Hitler, we have just said that he was living a lonely life. So he developed hatred for the Jews this time whom he blamed for his failures. He thought that the Jews, they grabbed all the businesses, they grabbed all work. So he hated them simply because the Jews were just everywhere. You know, this time the Jews were in diaspora. A lot of them, they were away. So in Germany again, there were a lot of Jews there, and the Jews were prospering a lot in business, and most of their children were the ones who were doing good in school. So they dominated. So Hitler developed that hatred for the Jews, to say they contributed to his failure. So in 1913, he went to Munich. Munich is one of the cities there in Germany. So, and when the World War I broke out, he volunteered to fight for the German army. So while there in Munich, he volunteered to fight for Germany. So you see there, after he tried many other things, then he just volunteered a work in the army to say, don't pay me, I'll just go there to fight for my country. So while in the army, he was awarded the Iron Cross. Why? Because he was so brave for his bravery. And there in the army, he rose into the rank of a corporal. A corporal is another rank there in the army. So while there in the battlefront, he was wounded, and later he was also blinded by the poison gas in the trenches. Remember, we talked of the trench war during the First World War. We mentioned about this, the trench war. So they were fighting in the trenches. They were digging the trenches and they were moving there. So he was gassed there. He was poisoned there, and he became blind. So by the time the war ended in 1918, Hitler was in hospital. So he joined, later after he get better, he get well, the war was over, then he joined Germany Workers' Party. The German Workers' Party was there. So he joined this party after Germany surrendered, that is after November 1918, and he was released in the hospital. Then he joined the politics and he joined this party. So the party was funded by Anton Dexter. So this Anton Dexter, he was anti-Semitic, anti-communism, and anti-nationalism. So himself, Adolf Hitler, he joined this party. Mind you, we talked of the party, German Workers' Party. It meant that this time around there were many parties in Germany. The reason you can also guess, because remember we said that the Allies in 1918, they said that they were not going to stop fighting against Germany unless the Kaiser and his autocracy steps down and allows democracy to flourish or to take place in Germany. So with that, then parties started. So you remember we talked of the German Workers' Party. Here we are talking of the German Workers' Party. There's the Social Development Party, things like those. So there were so many parties after 1918, after the Kaiser abdicated. So Adolf Hitler joined one of the parties, and this one was Germany Workers' Party. So this German Workers' Party, we have said that it was started or more funded by Anton Dexter, who also hated the Jews, anti-Semitic. It means he was anti-Jews, anti-communism, hated communism, anti-nationalism. They did not want that nationalism as well. So Drexler was impressed so much with Adolf Hitler. Why? Because Hitler was an orator. He knew how to speak at the public place. So in 1920, he put him in charge of the party propaganda. See, the German Workers' Party now, it had its propaganda leader by the name Adolf Hitler. So Adolf Hitler was liked by Drexler for that, for his public speaking skills. So Hitler, then he took his position as a propagandist of the party to speak in the beer halls against the Versailles Treaty, against the Jews, and against communism, and even the Republicans. Remember the Versailles Treaty? Why? Because this one, many Germans did not like it, did not like the treaty, because the terms were regarded as very, very harsh to Germany. And the Jews, we have just said that Germany, or Adolf Hitler, hated the Jews because they took over the jobs, they took over businesses. So most of the workers, again, they hated the Jews. And the communism also was hated by some of the Germans. So he was speaking against these things, even the Republicans. Remember the Republicans? They were the ones that formed the Weimar Republic. The Weimar Republic. So those leaders who were in the Republic, those leaders who formed that republic, they were hated by Adolf Hitler, and he was advancing this propaganda for people to start hating those leaders of that Weimar Republic. So with his good public speaking skills, he attracted many of the opponents of the republic. So many of the people who hated the republic, they also joined Adolf Hitler to come together, and they joined the German Workers' Party. So at the party's launch, so this party, the German Workers' Party, it was launched in February 1920. So Hitler, he announced 25 points. He announced 25 points program for German Workers' Party. So some of them were, number one, the destruction of the Versailles Treaty, which has crippled Germany's economy. Many people were poor in Germany because of the Versailles Treaty. They were paying a lot. They were paying a lot of the reparations. So those ones, they crippled the economy of Germany. And the other point was only pure-blooded Germany shall be citizens. That is the 25 points of the German Workers' Party, according to Adolf Hitler. Pure Germans, they were going to be the citizens, that is, of the Aryan race. So he said, all those who were foreigners there, they were not going to be granted the citizenship of Germany once this party gets into power. So here it was a direct challenge there for the Jews who were prospering in Germany. So Adolf Hitler, he is there advocating to say, if we get into power, the German Workers' Party get into power, only pure Germans are going to be citizens. Others, no more citizenship here. And he also talked of expansion of Germany towards the Eastern Europe, to extend Germany to the Eastern Europe, that is to go beyond the borders of Germany, and creation of strong state control, to say this party was going to have a very, very good control, a strong control of everything in the country. So in 1921, he became the leader. Adolf Hitler became the leader of the German Workers' Party, the German Workers' Party. And he changed the name from German Workers' Party to National Socialist Germany Workers' Party. National Socialist German Workers' Party. And it was abbreviated to Nazi. So it was abbreviated to Nazi. So Nazi is a short form of National Socialist, which is called by this name in Germany, National Sozialistische. So like that, so National Socialist, that is the Nazi party. So you can see now the Nazi has come, has entered now the playground there with the leader Adolf Hitler of this Nazi party in 1921. So in September 1921, Adolf Hitler, he organized a band of the Freikorps. So the Freikorps were the war veterans, the soldiers that fought for Germany in the First World War. So those war veterans, they were known as the Freikorps. So he organized them into what he called them the Sturmabteilung, or the stormtroopers, So they were abbreviated into SA, or the Storm Troopers, or the Sturmabteilung. So the SA was used to disrupt opponents' rallies and keep order at the Nazi rallies. So those ex-soldiers, ex-servicemen, these ones, the war veterans, the Freikorps, they were organized into this Nazi party as people who were disrupting the rallies of other parties, and they were keeping order at the Nazi party. So you can see there how Adolf Hitler was gaining momentum in Germany. And the group, the SA, also fought the street battles with the communists, the communist revolutionaries. See, so the communist revolutionaries, the people who wanted everything to be centralized in the government, those ones were hated again by the Nazi party. Therefore, the SA, they were busy fighting those communists in the streets. Then there was the Munich beer hall putsch, 1923. So in 1923, on 8th November, Adolf Hitler, he decided to take over power by force. So in 1923, after he saw that he has the SA, the former soldiers, they are to his side, they have joined his party. So what more did he want to have the power? So in 1923, he decided to have, or to take power using force. So his SA stormed the beer hall in Munich. So again, he was supported by General Ludendorff, and he announced the national revolution. So the general of the government army also supported Adolf Hitler to do that. And Adolf Hitler announced the national revolution to take over power. So after they took over Munich, then they marched to take over the government of Bavaria. But however, they were easily suppressed by the police. So the police controlled this uprising, this revolution started by Adolf Hitler at Munich. So it was not a success there. So the result was that Adolf Hitler was arrested and he was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment for treason. Treason is a serious case whereby if someone wants to take over the government by force, that one is called treason. So Adolf Hitler was charged for treason, and he was sent to prison for that, and he was imprisoned for that at Lindenberg Castle. So in prison, he wrote a book by the name Mein Kampf, which is My Struggle, My Struggles. So while in prison, he wrote that book by the name, or entitled My Struggles. So after 9 months, he stayed in prison only for 9 months, and on 20th December 1924, he was released from prison. Then he resolved that power was only to be achieved through democratic methods and not violence. So he learned maybe something while he was in prison to say, yes, power can not be taken only by force. There is need for democracy, democratic methods. So maybe that was the good thing that he learned from the prison. So let's see, did he start doing that democracy when he was released from prison? Let's see.
Simutaya nthawi yanu kufunafuna maphunziro muzakhala wotumidwa moyo wanu wonse. Ngati simuphunzira anthu azingokutumani ajala kalime ajala kuchwe manyazi ajala katende yanti ndipo anthu ophunzira wandu wotuma so kwambiri. Ndiye ngati simuphunzira skulu akuyikirani apa mukhala otumidwa.